Morning, guys. Oh, it feels so early. It's nearly 9 a.m, so it's not that early. But it's quite early to be doing a TikTok. And I feel so tired as well because I've not slept. Been having a lot of sinus pressure. And also I've just cleared my wardrobe out to put like some newish winter clothing in that I've got. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about what happened when I went for my second appointment at the hospital with the ENT. So I goes there, and I'm just under the impression I'm going to see my original ENT. And I get there and they don't really say anything at first. And then she says, like the nurse, because the nurse has to be in with you at all times. I suppose it's for risk factor if anything happens or anything like that. So yeah, the nurse said, "Oh, you'll be with Doctor whoever, I can't remember her name, and I wouldn't want to put that on here anyway." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not seeing Doctor," and she's like, "No, he's not in the office today," and I'm like, "Okay." So anyway, like I said in the previous TikTok, I went in to discuss the nasal polyp. I've always known that I've got a nasal polyp. I've always known that I have to have surgery. So I went in to discuss that. At that point, I didn't really care who it was with. So I sat down, took my jacket off because I was getting extremely hot. I hate hospitals, hate doctors. I think we've spoke about this in previous, I think I did it in like nasal and sinus cancer part 1. I've got a fear of hospitals and doctors. Yes, I know they're there to help, but that doesn't make it any easier for me. So anyway, got inside the room, sat down like I said, and she had my scans up, so I was looking at the scans trying to see what the issue was, and I did notice some like dark patches on the scan. So anyway, I noticed these dark patches on the scan area, obviously where they scanned. I didn't realise that they was looking like for problems in the sinuses, but I guess they must have been. Excuse me. So anyway, she said you've got quite a lot of blockages around the sinus area, and that's why you're struggling to breathe. And then on top of the nasal polyp, which is very, very close to the sinuses, she said what we need to do is drain your sinuses to remove the blockage. And I said, right. And she said, and as you've tried nasal sprays in the past, we don't recommend that. And I said, well, I'm using Sterimar. And she said, that's not really going to do anything. But to be honest, guys, it's like I said in the last TikTok, I don't think it was that one, I think it was the one before. It does help. It does give me some relief when it's really, really bad. Paracetamol and ibuprofen do jack shit for it. Because it's obviously sinus pressure and not a headache. So anyway, she said, you are going to need an operation. And I'm like, but I'm already having one. I'm already having one on the nasal polyp. She said, yeah, but you're going to need an operation to drain your sinuses, to remove the blockage, because if we don't remove the blockage, it's just going to get worse. You're going to get more infections and you're probably going to get really, really sick. And that makes perfect sense, guys, because I have been so ill this last few days. I've had so much pain, almost to the point where I'm crying. So I said, right, and then she explained this consent form. She shoved the consent form at me and she said, there is a risk of blindness, like if we nip something. And I'm like, what the hell? Nip something? I'm putting my life in your hands by having this operation, and now you're telling me there's a risk of blindness. So I wasn't happy about that. I couldn't really ask her any questions because she was speaking really, really fast. I was looking at the nurse was looking at me. The nurse knew that I couldn't really understand what she was telling me, and I really wanted to say, look, slow down, can you just slow down so I can understand? It was kind of like they wanted to basically tell me what they needed to rush me out the door. So that was that. I just was floored, guys, because like you go into the doctors, right, for one thing, and then it's like I came out with something completely different. I went in to discuss a nasal polyp, and then they're telling me I've got problems with my sinuses and need a more invasive procedure done. And it's like, but do I? She at first, like, she was like, so shall I put you on the waiting list for the operation? And I'm like, well, I don't really like the fact that it's a high risk operation and that you're telling me that there's a risk of blindness. And she said, well, there's a risk with all operations. And I said, well, if you was getting, I was thinking if you was getting an operation on your leg, there wouldn't be a risk of blindness, would there? So some are more like riskier than others. And I've spoke to her since, and basically, it's she's told me even more risk, but I want to do a different video for that because I did go and see my GP because I got a report from the hospital. Basically, I rung the ENT secretary up, like the medical secretary who works with my ENT who's going to perform the surgery. And I just explained, that I needed to talk to the actual person who I saw originally. But anyway, I got this report from the hospital and it was in medical jargon. So I booked an appointment to see my doctor. I wasn't happy with what it said. So I asked him to explain basically what was wrong with me because I felt like I didn't get what I needed from the ENT. So I basically asked him to tell me everything, and we're going to go into that in the next part. I'm doing it in parts like this just so I can remember to tell you kind of what happened, like in each doctor's visit. And somebody asked me the other day what the symptoms were. So if you go to my video part 1, you'll learn all about it there. But if you've got any of those symptoms, please make a doctor's appointment, just to be on the safe side more than anything. Just because you've got those symptoms, it doesn't mean that you've got sinus or nasal cancer. I'm not making these videos to scare people. I'm making these videos to make people aware that there is such a thing as nasal and sinus cancer, and there are such a thing as nasal polyps. And a lot of people do know. I've had a lot of support, from people who have had nasal and sinus cancer or who are going through it. So, it's interesting to know that it's not just me in the world. But I'm glad I've got this little platform with a little following now, and I can't thank you enough for watching these videos. This is coming up for 8 minutes now, so I'm gonna go now, and I'll be back in a few days to let you know what happened when I went to my GP appointment. Bye for now.